It was supposed to be an adventure. In late January 1959, 10 hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a challenging expedition into the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains. Young, bright, and full of spirit, they were led by an experienced mountaineer, Igor Dyatlov. The group included Lyudmila Dubinina, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Rustam Slobodin, Yuri Doroshenko, Yuri Krivonishenko, Alexander Kolevatov, Semyon Zolotaryov, Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, and Yuri Yudan. 10 began the journey. Only 9 would reach the mountain. As they trekked into the snow-buried peaks, conditions grew harsher by the day. On February 1, the team pitched their tent on the slope of a mountain the locals called Korlat Psykachel, the Mountain of the Dead. It was the last night they would ever see. When the group failed to return, rescue teams were sent out. What they discovered has puzzled the world for over 6 decades. The tent was found first. It was slashed open from the inside. Their boots, coats, and supplies were left behind, as if they fled in a blind panic into the freezing dark. Soon, bodies began to appear in the snow. 2 were found near the remains of a small fire, dressed only in underwear. Their hands and feet showed signs of desperate burning, as if they had tried to pull flaming branches from the trees to survive. 3 more were discovered between the fire and the tent, as if they had been crawling, trying to return. 1 had a fractured skull. Another had injuries suggesting he had collapsed from exhaustion. But it was what came next that deepened the mystery. 2 months later, the last 4 hikers were found in a ravine under several feet of snow. Their injuries were beyond belief. Lyudmila Dubinina's ribs were shattered, and her eyes were missing. Semyon Zolotaryov's chest was crushed with unimaginable force. Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles had a fractured skull so severe it could not have come from a fall. And Dubinina's tongue was gone. To make it stranger, traces of radioactive material were discovered on some of their clothing. Investigators were baffled. The official report concluded only that the hikers died from an unknown compelling force, but the questions multiplied. Why had they fled their tent half-clothed into deadly cold? What could inflict such brutal injuries without leaving external wounds? Why the radiation? Theories exploded. Some claimed an avalanche had struck their camp, forcing them to cut their way out and flee. But rescuers noted the slope was too shallow, and there were no signs of a slide. Others suggested a Soviet military experiment, secret weapons testing, parachute mines, or chemical exposure. The radiation seemed to support this. There were whispers of a KGB cover-up, of spies hiding among the hikers. Still others turned to the extraordinary UFO encounters. The curse of the Mountain of the Dead. But amidst all the speculation, one truth remains undeniable: the hikers' final moments were terrifying. Alone, freezing, disoriented, and fatally injured, they fought desperately against an unseen force, and lost. Yuri Yudan, the only survivor who turned back early due to illness, would later say, "If I had stayed with them, I would have died too. But at least I would know the answer." More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident endures as one of history's greatest mysteries. 9 young lives. A torn tent. Unexplainable injuries. And a question that will never rest: what happened on that mountain? Behind the curtain, we continue searching for the stories the world was never meant to know.